Hey everybody, it's Aaron with the Nicest Guys in Detroit, and today we are doing a segment in which I find something good about every movie. Now, it's around Halloween time, so I figure it's time to talk about some horror for a bit. Since I was Detroit's #1 Jason Voorhees, I think I'll talk about a series that I hold a lot of nostalgia for, the Friday the 13th series. When I was a kid on the playground, the kids that were able to watch R-rated movies would regale the ones that couldn't with tales of what they saw in the Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, and Friday the 13th series, and all the gruesome details that they could. I think I'm going to go through each of these series and rank my favorites. And since I'm actually recording this on a Friday, I'm going to start with the Friday the 13th series. So, let's start. And I'll go from my least favorite to my favorite. Friday the 13th Part 3 in glorious 3D. Now I know this one ranks pretty high with a lot of people since Jason gets his mask in it. But for me, it's just too redundant. You see, parts 1, 2, 3, and 5 all have this "we don't know who the killer is" camera thing going on for most of the kills. And that makes the direction for the kill sequences a lot less interesting to me. Now 1 and 5 have the excuse of being very weak murder mysteries, and 2 kind of has that reveal of what Jason actually looks like. And they kind of work with that, so the point of view shots kind of work with those. However, this one just really has no reason to be unknown killer, since we know that Jason is the killer already, and we already know what he looks like. I just don't really get this choice besides it trying to basically ape what the other movies did. Also, this film is shot in that really old bad 3D that Amityville 3D or Jaws 3D were shot in, and the movie really makes sure that we know that. Half of the kills are in 3D, with eyeballs flying towards us on wires. The movie pauses to have someone throw a blue yo-yo in our face.
Go get some exercise.
This is all the exercise I need.
That was close. Hey, you better watch out with that thing. Come on. I'm warning you, Andy. I'll break your string.
And it just turns into a really distracting and pointless affair that takes me out of the movie at every turn. Finally, Shelly.
God damn it, Shelly. Why do you always have to be such an asshole?
Shelly is the second most annoying character in the entire series, but also has around 600% more screen time than the actual most annoying character. So much of the runtime up until the point that Jason gets his mask just has this ultra grating character taking up way too much of it. Wait, no, not finally. I do have a couple of other things. Now this is a big one. There is a very weird choice in this movie to make Jason kind of a sexual assaulter or something. I just don't get it. He apparently assaults a victim and then lets her live after the fact. It's really weird, and it's just the complete wrong direction for this series to go to. And then it also has a weird ending. There's a reverse of part 1's ending, where Jason jumps out of the water, but instead of Jason, Pamela Voorhees jumps out of the water, and it's also weird and stupid, and then Jason's in the background laughing while it's happening. So I don't know, it's just really weird. But hey, I have to say something good about it. Jason does get his iconic Red Wings goalie mask in this one, so that is something. Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning with Roy. I have a weird soft spot for this one, so it was kind of hard for me to rank it so low. However, trying my very best to look at this somewhat objectively, it's just not that good at all. First, there's the same problem that I have with 3, unknown killer shots. The initial point of view kill in Halloween was effective because it briefly put the audience in the eyes of the killer, who slowly stalked someone he already knew in the safe confines of a suburban home before he killed them. This is the 4th Friday the 13th movie with the same gimmick, and it just does not have the same effect after approximately 50 kills from this perspective. Secondly, while I don't really mind the killer not being Jason like a lot of others do, the murder mystery that tries to make you think that the killer might be Tommy Jarvis or one of these other kids doing the killing, it's possibly the worst murder mystery I've ever seen in a movie. I mean, that might be some hyperbole, but it's pretty bad. Now, here's a spoiler alert. Close your ears for 2 seconds. The killer is Roy.
Come on, Roy. Get your hands dirty.
Now, who is Roy? He's this random paramedic that you see at the beginning of the movie. He makes this kind of stupid face when he sees, again, the most annoying character ever, Joey's dead body. Now, why is he the killer? Because, get this, Joey is his son that he decided to abandon in institutions, and then I guess he snapped because he saw him dead at the hands of somebody in the very institution that he got put in because he left him and abandoned him. Yeah. So I guess it's supposed to be a kind of parallel to Miss Voorhees' killing because her son Jason got killed at a camp, but yeah, it just doesn't work.
What the hell's going on here? You talking to me, Sheriff? Huh?
Oh, I thought you was talking to me.
No, Roy, it's okay. Go ahead. Get them out of here.
Also, Joey, again, is the most annoying Friday the 13th character ever. And this is in a movie with multiple annoying characters.
Hi, Vic.
Get lost.
Come on, don't be like that. I'm gonna help you with the wood today. And anyway, I got 2 chocolate bars, see? Don't tell the girls.
Fortunately, he's only in the movie for around 5 minutes before literally being hacked to death for being annoying, so that's a little bit of mercy. And that's the biggest problem with this movie. It's just parts 1 through 3 all over again, but with everything being played really cartoonishly stupid. But it's not really funny. I mean, at least 6 or X are kind of funny, but this isn't funny at all. Now, in its favor, it does have some of the best kills in the series, and sorry to be objective, but it does have some of the best boobs in the series. But that's not quite enough to save it.
It's showtime!
Jason X. Jason's in space. Now, I might get a bit of flack for this choice, but I do have an overriding reason why I ranked this one so low. The digital cinematography in this movie makes it look like an early, 2000s Canadian TV drama or something. I mean, this was the very, very early days of digital cameras, and I have some of the same issues with this movie that I have with Attack of the Clones. The lighting and the kind of lack of film grain effect makes it look really glossy and really television. I don't know. It just literally bothers me to look at the movie. In its favor, though, it does have some really, really good moments. Here's some things I like. I do like the Cronenberg cameo. I like that Doc Torre from Spartacus is in it. I like the liquid nitrogen kill. I really like the holodeck sequence with the homage to that sleeping bag kill in part 7. And I do like Kane Hodder. But that just does not make up for the look of the film for me, or also the fact that it has a little bit too silly of a tone for my taste. I mean, it's funnier than part 5, but it's not that funny. Also, as another positive, this is the second time in the series that somebody just figured out to shoot Jason up enough to stop him. But then, again, it's the second time that he came back from that in a positively stupid way. And this resulted in Uber Jason, which I never ever liked at all. I mean, he's a little too boringly invincible, and the design looks really, really silly to me. But again, there are a lot of things to like in this movie. I'm not down to get too much, so it's not that bad. Friday the 13th, Part 8. Jason takes a boat. Now, just like Leprechaun went to space and then went to the hood, The same thing kind of went with Jason, only in a reverse kind of order. The fact that I have so little to say about this middle group of movies is probably why they sit where they do. I actually somewhat kind of like the look of this one. It does have some really funny scenes once he actually gets to New York. I always like the Times Square scene and that boxing sequence on the roof. However, the kills are horribly censored and not all that great. There's a weird subplot with the final girl that she sees like a ghost Jason kid. It's weird, it's dumb, and it doesn't make any sense. I have absolutely no idea why the New York City of this movie flushes toxic waste through its sewers daily. And then why does that revert Jason to a child? I just don't get it. I don't like teleporting Jason at all. See, we know that Jason can ninja port and kind of stealth in the other movies, and I know that the game has kind of a teleport thing going on, but I mean, in this movie, if Jason is like chasing you down some stairs, he's at the top of the stairs, you run down the stairs, he's gonna pop up in front of you at the bottom of the stairs, and that's just not fair. It bothers me for some reason. I mean, I've never been a fan of teleporting zombies in films, and this includes Jason, who is a zombie in this movie, and he's a teleporting zombie, so I am just not a fan. Now, I don't really mind 80% of this movie taking place on the boat, like a lot of people do, but it's still false advertising, kind of. It's supposed to be Jason in Manhattan, and he only pops there in the last 15 minutes of the movie or so. So that's kind of a negative as well. Jason Goes to Hell. This one is just weird, but I will say that this weirdness does give it a really creepy vibe in some instances, and it does have some really good moments and some pretty good kills. Now, I know that people complain about this one because Jason is barely in it as himself. It instead uses this weird worm thing to kind of possess people, and these people all do Jason impressions as they kill people. But still, being a weird kind of quasi-remake of The Hidden still isn't all that bad. I kind of like that possessed coroner played by Richard Gant, and then we do find out that Jason can actually talk. He can apparently talk all this time and never bother to. No, seriously, I'm not lying. He talks in this movie after he possesses a guy.
Kill him!
No,
Do it!
Ed, is it really you?
Of course.
Stay there.
Give me the knife.
I thought you were dead.
You were wrong.
Don't come any closer.
Kill him!
I can't. Oh.
Freeze! Get the hell away from her, Ed!
But yeah, it's just a really weird movie. The setup of the FBI finally getting involved and blowing Jason up after a fake out is really, really good. But then it leads to this weird heart eating and worm possession, and then Jason's trying to be reborn by going into a family member. And the setup's good, but what it turns into is just really weird. Oh, I also like Stephen Williams' ridiculously fun bounty hunter, Creighton Duke. He's a really fun character, and I kind of like how he just overplays the character and acts ridiculous throughout.
I'm going to say 2 words to you, Mr. Duke, and I want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind, okay?
Okay,
You ready?
shoot.
Jason Voorhees.
Well, that makes me think of a little girl in a pink dress, sticking a hot dog through a donut.
But yeah, this movie is kind of mixed enough to put it like right smack in the middle of all these movies. It's okay. Friday the 13th, Part 7, Jason vs. Carrie. Part 7 reminds me a lot of Part 4. It just has zombie Jason as opposed to human Jason, and then the final girl is Jean Grey from the X-Men. But hey, if Friday the 13th Part 1 can rip off Carrie's kind of final jump scare at the end, then 7 can just put Carrie right in the movie, I guess. This one has the honor of having the absolute dumbest Jason resurrection ever, and that includes the coroner eating his heart in Part 9. See, Jason was chained and dormant at the bottom of Crystal Lake, and then the psychic Tina decides to resurrect her father who drowned in that same lake and then she resurrects Jason instead. Then she faints on the edge of the water, and apparently Jason just leaves the water and walks right past her or something to go kill other people. I don't get it, and it's really weird. And then, like part 8, the kills in this movie are really censored. I mean, this movie would be a lot better received if we got an uncensored version ever, which we still haven't, at least not that I know of. If you know of it, please tell me. I mean, even still, we do have the weirdness of, like, Jason using a weed whacker to kill somebody. And we have the viciously cool sleeping bag kill in this movie that Jason X referenced. And this movie has a fantastic showdown between Jason and the psychic Tina. There's some really fun power usage in this. It's great to see Jason get his butt kicked. And there is some really good effect work going on and makeup work going on here. This is also Kane Hodder's first time to play Jason, and his additional intensity with the role, it really helps this final battle. He really sells Jason's anger and his power in this final fight. Of course, then the whole thing ends really weird. It ends and begins weird. It ends with Tina resurrecting her father from the lake, and then the father just changed Jason back down in the lake, and I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. I mean, did they just leave his dead body at the bottom of the lake? Is that a representation of him? I don't understand. Yeah, and he's right off the docks. They couldn't find him. I don't know. But hey, I guess that explains why they never found Jason chained up at the bottom of the lake. I mean, if they couldn't drag the lake for her father, who was right next to the docks, how are they going to find him? Oh well. Friday the 13th. No, that's it. This is Voorhees' killer. That one, part 1. Now, I'm sure everybody's going to be really surprised that I ranked this one so low, but there's a good reason for it, in my opinion. Now, as I mentioned earlier, 1, 2, 3, and 5 are all practically the same movie. This gets credit for being the first, but it's not the best at doing what it did, and we're going to get to that later. And that also goes for the first-person view for the kills. The kill of Anne at the beginning does a decent job of making the whole thing feel like a mystery, and it is a really good mood setter. I mean, it's not really a mystery that we can actually solve with what we're given in the movie, but it feels pretty cool at least. We also get some nice Savini gore effects for the time. But we do get an actual snake being killed on screen, and that really pisses me off a bit and drops the movie pretty much as a default for me. I just skip that part when I watch it now. The killer in this, of course, is Pamela Voorhees, as Scream made sure we were reminded of at the beginning, and Betsy Palmer does an excellent job of coming off as being actually unhinged in that final showdown that she shows up in. And hey, we've got Kevin Bacon, and that's always a plus. This is definitely one of the best ones, but again, it's so redundant with part 2 for me, which I like more, that I have to drop it down in the rankings a bit. Freddy versus Jason! Yeah, Ronnie, you really over-directed this movie and made it look way too glossy and stylistic. And no, Freddy doesn't really get any good dream sequence kills in this movie. He gets one, but they aren't too good. And yeah, the movie in itself has a lot of problems, but I just can't erase how fun this film was to watch the first time. Now, going back to my statement at the beginning about schoolyard talks, this was basically the culmination of some of our conversations, but it was finally on the big screen for us all to see. And while much of this movie is definitely stupid, Robert Englund hams it up so ridiculously much that I just end up rolling with it. Now, this movie is more comedic in tone than half of the series, and some of the jokes land, again, mostly due to Englund seemingly just having a ton of fun with his last outing as Freddy. There's only a couple of dream sequences, with Jason doing all but one of the kills in the movie, so this almost comes off kind of like a Friday the 13th with guest star Freddy, but it clearly belongs on this list for this reason, I'd say. Ken Kersinger takes over the Jason roles for this one, and I know people miss Kane Hodder, but I think he did a pretty good job of what he's given in this movie. Jason's opening kill in this with this violent stabbing and then folding this jerk dude in half on the bed was one of the roughest kills until the next movie on my list. Also, the Dream World showdown where Freddy jobs to Jason is okay, I guess. Alright, let me just address that really quickly. Now, Freddy is established in his movies as having total control of the dream world, and he can turn you into like a potato if he wants to. He just really plays with his victims. He could kill you immediately just with a thought if he felt like it, and it's been established. Remember Roach Girl? But for some reason, with Jason, he decides to just use blunt force trauma as a weapon against him. And when that doesn't work, he gets all confused as to why he can't kill him. I mean, he didn't bother turning him into a roach like we saw before, or exploding him, or even slicing him. I mean, he does have glove hands in the dream worlds. He just sees Jason as afraid of water for some reason now, and then he starts drowning him so the heroes can rescue him before he can drown him. I mean, he really jobbed in that fight. Anyway, that's still kind of redeemed because in the real world fight, Freddy does remember that he can slice Jason up all of a sudden, and he would have probably beaten him via slicing up his head or digging his brain out or whatever he was doing if it weren't for those darn pesky kids distracting him. But again, it does end up being a really fun fight. I really enjoyed it. Now, you over-directs this, like I said, and there's an overuse of fun Dutch angles and close-ups and stuff, but that punchy editing and general energy does add to the movie, and I rank it pretty highly up there. The remake. Okay, I'm ranking the remake pretty high, and I know a lot of people don't, and I know a lot of people would complain about this, but I think I can explain pretty quickly why I do it. Now, I have not been scared of Jason since I was like 8 years old, and while I watched the series as I aged, I ended up actually looking forward to the kills for the creativity and gore effects, instead of having any actual reaction to them, and not a real visceral reaction or no real dread or anything. I just want to get to the kills. Now, the remake kind of starts with this flashback to Ma Voorhees, and then there's an opening sequence where Jason is growing weed or something, and then some guy tries to steal it, but then he shows you how brutal he is when you try to get his weed. Now, he's not slowly stalking people with the ma, kill, playing in the background. He's going to lay a bear trap down, and when you're caught in it, he'll run up to you and stab you in your face. Much of this movie is basically like that first kill from Freddy vs. Jason. It's purposefully played as brutal and hardcore. It makes you really not want Jason to kill anybody because it looks painful as heck. You just do not want him to catch these people sometimes. I mean, what I believe to be the second kill in this movie is a sleeping bag kill that's just really brutal. He roasts a girl alive over a fire and she's screaming in pain. It really sets the tone for the rest of the movie. I think that's really the big turnoff for a lot of people. They don't want to be turned off by a Jason kill. That's not what they signed up for. They just say it's bad because of that, because they want to look forward to Jason killing people. But for me, kind of after seeing 11 other Jason films, making me feel anything visceral is a huge accomplishment, and that's why I give this remake a lot of credit. The remake is also kind of interesting in that it's not just simply a remake of Part 1, but kind of a best of the first 4 movies. It opens with a recap of the end of Part 1 with Ma Voorhees. Then a group of people go back up to the camp and get killed off by Baghead Jason, with the final girl from that group pretending to be his mom and surviving. Jason then goes and gets his Red Wings hockey mask from some goofy dude before a group of teens go down to a lake house to party and get picked off by him. Meanwhile, Sam from Supernatural ends up with the main group due to looking for his sister that disappeared with the second group of people. All of this stuff was done in the first 4 movies, and it's really a nice nod and summary of the early parts of the series. This movie also has an interesting final girl fake-out that gave me a little bit of a surprise when I first saw it. There's also a weird Michael Bay, whose company produced this, Easter egg or joke or whatever you want to call it. That jerky Trent character that bullied Sam in Michael Bay's first Transformers movie, he finally gets his comeuppance after being a jerk in this movie as well. He gets brutally killed by Jason, and that's one of the only kills you root for in this movie. And yes, this really happens. The same director that directed the Platinum Dunes Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake directed this, and I kind of put them on the same level of it's a decent watch while not matching the best of the original series. I do not say that about the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, however, but we can get to that at another time, and I don't think I can say much nice about that movie at all. Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives as a Zombie. This is a lot of people's absolute favorite of the films. I too have a soft spot for it since it was in the height of my schoolyard talk, but I do drop it a tiny little bit under the next two on my list due to a couple of reasons. Firstly, again, it's really silly without actually being funny in a lot of instances. Yeah, triple decapitations on work retreat paintballers are somewhat fun, but it still feels too much like a midpoint between the pure humor of like Freddy vs. Jason and the played straight tone of many of the others. I mean, it does a lot better at this than Part 5. I just don't think it balances quite correctly. Now, this is the first movie with zombified Jason, and this really did breathe new life into the series. Jason was always resilient, but the human person could be briefly overpowered at times. In one case, there is one fight scene, I think it's in Part 2, where he's actually smaller than the male lead in the movie that he's fighting. And I mean, he did end up being killed by a kid after all. Zombie Jason, on the other hand, walks off small arms fire, and I mean, once he touches you, you're basically dead. He didn't even need stealth kills like the human version. He'd just walk up to you and kill you no matter what weapon you had, unless you had bigger guns, which nobody did. Now, as a comparison, Michael Myers showed a little of this in Part 2, but he didn't become fully Jason-like until Part 4, which came out 2 years after this, I think. So this definitely felt really unique to the Friday the 13th series at the time. And then he gets a really nice resurrection at the beginning, with Tommy Jarvis kind of doing this Frankenstein homage and lightning and a spear. It's pretty fun. All in all, this movie has really good pacing, a lot of good kills, and some good direction. Oh, and it's the only Friday the 13th movie with kids actually in the camp, so it finally makes it feel like it takes place at a camp. I mean, this should definitely be somewhere in everybody's top 3. If you have it in your top 3, I don't care if you have it 1, 2, or 3, I can probably agree with your reasoning. Friday the 13th Part 2. Part 1 all over again, but now it's Jason with a bag on his head. Now, while I like Zombie Jason enough, as I just said, I actually do prefer the human one, and this is the best version of Part 1 that there is. The movie quickly kills off the two loose ends from Part 1 in it, Alice and Crazy Ralph. Alright, now speaking of these loose ends being killed from Part 1, I have absolutely no idea how Jason found Alice. I mean, did he read a phone book and drive down to her place or what? How did he find her? Now that I think about it, he did actually call her during that scene and hang up on her, so maybe that's exactly what he did. And we do find out that he can actually talk in Jason Goes to Hell, so maybe that's it. It then focuses on this new group of counselors who are going through some counselor training at a center near the original camp. That minor change doesn't do much for making it very different though. It's still pretty much the same exact movie as the first. However, this generally has better kills, I'd say, overall as compared to 1. I mean, it's not quite as effective in gore effects as what Savini did, but it does have one of my favorite kills in the series. Poor sympathetic Mark being slashed in the face, his lifeless body just rolling down the stairs in his wheelchair. I also feel that Cunningham kind of directed this one a little better than Miner with Part 1. I also really like the climax of this film. You've got a couple of foot chase sequences, and then you have 6-foot Jason fighting a guy, and then there's this kind of tense scene where Jason's being tricked by Jenny, and when she dresses up like his mom. Now, I don't know. I don't really have much more to say about this one. I just always really liked it. I feel that the sum of its parts is pretty good. Now that leads me up to my absolute favorite, and quite a few fans agree on this one. Friday the 13th 4, the not-so-final chapter. Now as I stated, I prefer Human Jason, and this is easily the best of the Human Jason films. This really seems to be the best of all worlds. Human Jason, Savini is back to do the gore effects. It has a somewhat dark and serious tone. It's not in first person. And then we have the Crispin Glover dance, which is the greatest moment in any Friday the 13th movie. The praise that I give to Part 6 for pacing and timing definitely applies here, perhaps more so. It starts with a couple of quick kills when Jason revives at the morgue. It introduces a decently sized cast of characters that are given that standard Friday the 13th side character development, but they come off a bit more vibrant than most. It also has a widely varied set of brutal but really fun kills in general. The movie even introduces a child actor played by Corey Feldman that escapes that kind of normal annoyance that comes with children in slasher films. I think that the very best way to put it is that when I think of a Friday the 13th movie, 4 is what really comes to my head. I mean, Friday the 13th is nothing but really a slightly evolving formula, and out of the entire group, this movie best encapsulates the formula while doing a really good job at pretty much everything without those flaws of annoying characters like Shelley or those bad comedy rural characters that pop up in like parts 3 and 5. It doesn't have censored gore, it doesn't have really weird directorial choices, and again, it has the Crispin Glover dance. So, that's my list of Friday the 13th films from worst to best. I'll probably do the Nightmare on Elm Streets next. It's a lot easier doing 9 movies as opposed to 12. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Remember, stay nice, everybody.